assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science, where he co-directs the Data Representation Lab. His research focuses on visual analytics and data visualization and machine learning, particularly developing interactive and multimodal systems for analysis in high-dimensional data. His works have been published in top venues such as IEEE, TVCG, and so on, and have received multiple best paper honorable mentions. So today, Dr. Fujiwara will give us a talk titled Complex Data Through 3D Data Representation. Let's welcome, Dr. Fujiwara, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. I want to share my screen first. Give me a second. Can you see my screen and the slide title?
Yes.
Okay, then I will start. Yeah. Good morning and good evening, everyone. So today I will be talking about the communicating complex data through 3D data representation. And this is overview of today's my talk. So first, I'd like to share my research vision of my co-directing research lab, DREP, since this vision is very fundamental to describe why I'm developing various data representations, including 3D ones I present today. And then I will share two concrete topics I'm working on currently. One is immersive planetarium scale visualization, and another one is interactive data physicalization. So I just started a new faculty member position at the Department of Computer Science at the University of Arizona. And then another new faculty member, Dr. Sandra Bay, and I co-started directing the Data Representation Laboratory, or DREP, DREP Lab in short. And then as an ultimate vision of this DREP Lab, we envision a future where the boundary between humans and data disappears. So in this world, data is no longer something to stack on a flat screen, but something lived, felt, and experienced. And we also strive to the point where we can clearly and confidently see data patterns existing in high-dimensional space without hesitations or doubts. So we seek to move beyond the traditional visualization workflow, where the user's data and tasks are fragmented, but instead we are moving towards a space where data and humans coexist as one. So while envisioning this future, we see there is a boundary or barrier between data and human, as data is too abstract for humans in general, and in that situation, we humans are very far away from the data. But introducing data representation can bridge abstract data and humans, bring them closer together. And here data representation is how raw data takes form, whether as a 2D visualization chart or 3D model, a physical object, and so on. And then, so we think data representation can be further decomposed in two parts. One is features, another one is artifacts. And then we label each process to connect this data and humans, this process as process, build, and evaluate, and we extensively research each of these steps. So more specifically, the first step process converts a complex data set to a set of features, which is a more digestible form for humans, also the next build step. And then for this process, we develop various new computational algorithms for complex high-dimensional data sets, such as dimensional reduction, tensor decomposition, network representation learning methods. And then the build step transforms features to artifacts, such as interactive visualizations, to bridge the gap between humans and data. And in this step, we consider various forms and modalities. For example, in addition to traditional 2D visualization, we research 3D visualization, immersive visualization, and physicalization. Physicalization is a physical representation of data as analogous to visualization. And then lastly, we also study how human interacts and experience data through artifacts by investing how they perceive and engage with data. But today's talk, I will not cover the evaluation work much and focus on the process and build steps. And within our work, today's talk showcases 3D representations. So I should first explain why we should consider 3D representations. So first, 3D representations have strong potential benefits for analysis. It is because 2D space is often insufficient to capture structures of complex high-dimensional data. For example, in this 2D dimensional reduction result of RNA sequence data obtained by applying UMAP, UMAP is also one famous dimensional reduction method. And here we can see various line-like shapes, but those are separated in multiple pieces here. But actually, most of these line-like shapes should maintain the continuous trajectories based on scientific facts. So in fact, if we use 3D space, we can maintain the continuous structural properties. And then, yeah, actually scientists who analyze this data set commented in their paper, 3D version of UMAP results is more ideal for them. And similar issues happen when analyzing network data. For example, when using a 2D space, this kind of link intersections are often inevitable. But as noted by various scientists, in real world physical networks, such as neurons in brain, link intersections, edge crossing should not happen. And if we can use this kind of 3D space, we can easily satisfy such structural constraints. And second, 3D representations have potentials to provide intuitive and enjoyable interactions. For example, based on Fan et al.'s study on network visualizations, when compared with traditional flat display environments, 3D visualizations and immersive environments such as VR, AR can provide higher embodiment interactions. And in their study, because of this high embodiment, users show better task performance when analysis requires many interactions. In addition, we can even further employ data physicalization, which can even provide higher embodiment than AR/VR. And another potential benefits are for learning. So a few existing studies suggest 3D models and tangible interfaces can increase learning motivations because of learned subjects and so on. And so, of course, we need more studies to conclude all these general benefits, but I think 3D representations potentially can contribute to advanced aspects of analysis, interaction, and learning. So far I explained the DREP's vision, which aims to provide better communications between data and humans by introducing effective data representations, and discuss why we should consider 3D representations. Now, I'd like to showcase 3D representations we have developed. The first one is representative. First one is a cosmic view of life on Earth, which is an immersive planetarium scale 3D visualization of biological data. I want to mention this is an international collaboration work among University of Basel in Switzerland, Linköping University in Sweden, University of Arizona, and Rockefeller University, and the American Museum of Natural History. So I'd like to explain the motivation of this work first. So as you know, planetariums provide extremely large-scale 3D immersive environments. And also they are installed in various science museums as shown here. For example, Dome Theater located near from the Linköping University, the Hayden Planetarium at the AMNH, American Museum of Natural History. And then these planetariums so far are mainly used for presenting astronomical findings to public. And then the planetarium's high immersion environments helps public understand complex scientific findings or concepts. So we are interested in utilizing the same strengths to convey complex biological concepts. And in addition, planetariums are very powerful environments to gather scientists and then share their knowledge to develop attractive shows and so on. And by opening opportunities to use planetarium environments for not only astronomers, but for biologists, computer sciences, we aim to foster interdisciplinary communications within biology field or even across other fields. So in this project, with our team members from the bioinformatics field, we aim to generate a presentation of DNA sequence similarities of species, which are very abstract data. And then at the beginning of this project, as you can see here, we tested various different 3D designs. But eventually, we noticed that we can utilize semantic similarities of astronomical objects and biological elements as one way to facilitate understanding of the abstract biological data. So what I mean is, so both astronomical and then biological data sets share the hierarchical nature. So here I want to show this video to convey this idea. There should be a sound. Let me know if there is no sound. Let me play this video.
Astronomers and planetariums use the OpenSpace software to explore data from the mountains on Mars to the most distant objects we can see billions of light years away. We see here the nested structures of the universe. Planets huddled around stars, stars that belong to galaxies, and the large-scale structure formed by groupings of galaxies. OpenSpace can seamlessly traverse this range of scales, all while maintaining a visual continuity.
Okay, so as noted in this video, astronomical objects can be organized in a hierarchical manner, starting from the Earth, solar system, Milky Way galaxy, even to the groups of galaxies. So similarly, the biological categorization also uses a hierarchical structure, starting from species, genus, family to class, kingdom, even domain. And so this project, Cosmic View of Life on Earth, introduces 3D representations that convey this biological hierarchy while using analogies to the hierarchical organization of astronomical objects. So first, I'd like to provide a quick overview of our visualization pipeline, and then after that, I want to show a demonstration video. So our system uses both DNA barcodes and phylogenetic trees to extract biological similarities of species and higher taxonomic levels such as families. So we decided to use these different sources to consider genetic saturations when comparing very different species. But yeah, today's talk, you don't need to understand this type of details related to bioinformatics knowledge. But then after that, we apply a spherical dimensional reduction method, which we newly developed for this project. And then we arrange these multiple 3D spherical points in a hierarchical manner, and then where we place a sphere into a sphere to embed a hierarchical organization. Then we render these 3D points using an astronomical software, OpenSpace. And then because of the high flexibility of OpenSpace, we can even input various useful information for biological comparisons, such as pictures, CT scans, 3D models, even sounds. Now I'd like to show our current outcome.
For biological data, we show three major kingdoms of multicellular life: plants, animals, and fungi. The so-called tree of life reveals the underlying evolution of biological groups. In this arrangement, the last common ancestor of these three groups is located at the center of the sphere, and the expanding tree represents the evolution of life out to present day. Each point on the sphere is a biological class, such as mammals, birds, fish, or insects. Let's first visit the birds. We use a nested structure to examine the finer scales of biological diversity. Here, the birds are plotted on a sphere where large family points are surrounded by their smaller species points. We can add any sort of imagery to these data to highlight various scientific phenomena. We also label points for each family and the species within that family. Here we see the thrushes in yellow and a two-species family of African rockfowl, Picathardidae, in green. Derived from DNA sequence data and arranged using dimensionality reduction algorithms, species with similar DNA sequences are arranged closer together. We can draw a tree diagram from a recently published paper that connects families. Removing the species allows us to examine the tree more clearly. By integrating different levels of detail using dimensionality reduction, we can show biological groups and species on multiple scales. We move from birds to mammals, where we plot its families and species in a similar manner. We include a variety of skulls among the green primate points. In open space, we can localize these in one place to compare and contrast them. We see one of these skulls has a pronounced ridge along its top. This is the gorilla, who possesses strong muscles that connect the jaws to the top of its skull. Similarly, we examine a variety of insects plotted among their biological order points. We can scale the insect models so they are sized accurately relative to one another. We can also examine them in more detail. Here we fade down the body of the cricket so we can view the complex respiratory system within the cricket. The distributed nature of these air-filled tubes begin at openings in the exoskeleton and circulate air throughout its body.
Okay. So now I also want to show one result our team's members made. Here we try to incorporate sounds. Then still we are in a progress of integrating this work to our current visualization. But I believe this video still can convey a general sense of how we can utilize sounds to achieve a further immersive data exploration and provide context behind the abstract data. So now I'd like to explain one technical contribution about spherical representation. So first, we decided to use this spherical representation because it can make a nested sphere organization and has a high affinity to hierarchical exploration. In addition, speaker representation makes easy to see points from both outside and inside the sphere. And then in the astronomical context, this is interestingly corresponding to looking from the outside from the planet. Looking from the outside will correspond to the looking at the planet from space. And the another one is looking at the stars from the ground. So, but we originally tried to utilize existing spherical multi-dimensional scaling algorithm, but as you can see here, it generated two character visualizations, and it was not suitable for data exploration communication for our purpose. So to solve this cluttering issue, we extended a decluttering method developed by Leib et al. And their method can preserve neighborhood relationships while decluttering points. So this type of decluttering is achieved by using sector-based transformations. And then as shown in this top example, we can easily control the decluttering strength by adjusting the number of iterations for decluttering. And then bottom figure shows what happens at each iteration. So the method separates a region surrounding each point in a fixed number of sectors, in this case 4, and moves a point to less cluttered area. And then naturally this idea can extend to a spherical surface by generating sectors on a sphere, as illustrated in this example. So here I show two examples where we apply weak and strong relaxations respectively. And as you can see, even after the relaxations, speaker representations preserve neighbor relationships, but utilize wider space to show points more clearly. And I try to summarize this part of my talk. So we proposed a concept of cosmic view of life on Earth and designed a planetarium scale 3D visualization to present complex biological data in a hierarchical manner. And then this project is still ongoing, and we believe this is a long-term project. And then as one activity, we have been starting demonstrating our presentations to a wider biological community. For example, as shown here, we provided a presentation to over 150 attendees of the vertebrate genomes project meetings and started to discuss how we can integrate their new and the precise sequence dataset into a planetarium visualization. Okay, now my talk shifts towards 3D printed interactive data physicalization, which is related to these two recent publications where I collaborated with human-computer interactions and visualization researchers in Linköping University, UNC Chapel Hill, and CU Boulder. So in the first publication, we focused on physical networks, where nodes may have fixed positions and links may have particular thickness and so on. So these attributes convey semantics of physical systems in the real world, like food-fly brains, plant networks, and vascular networks. And then this physicality as a dimension that 2D network visualization cannot capture, such as no link intersection constraints in a brain network of neurons. Then other researchers have developed algorithms to help convey this physicality and also came up with novel representations like this 3D printed network. But when I look at such a network, it's still ultimately static. So but the research highlights how interactions are critical for working with data. They help people build mental models as they explore a data set by looking into critical details. But how do we enable interactivity even to static objects? And what would that look like? So this project focuses on achieving selection for complex geometry like this network. Selection is the most fundamental interactions, once selection is implemented, we can start to allow other interactions included from selections. But achieving selection for the physical world, even with relatively small network, is not straightforward. So human-computer interaction and computer graphics researchers have tried to make selection possible on physical objects by using techniques like capacitive sensing. As you may know, capacitive sensing is commonly used to recognize our touch when we are interacting with our smartphones or tablets. But as you can see here, current solution needs a lot of bias. And then these bias becomes problematic as they require a lot of effort in post hoc instrumentation and make it too difficult to handle complex shapes. So in fact, here is one our earlier prototype where we were trying to support selection with only 2 nodes, but you can already see the complexity of wiring. And imagine like trying to follow this approach for 20 nodes, even higher, bigger network. So you can see the traditional off-the-shelf electronics solution is not easy to apply to complex geometry like these networks. So we started to explore other non-electric solutions like computer visions, but computer vision itself introduced other challenges like occlusion and inaccurate alignment and requiring users to stay in a frame. So we tried to provide more efficient, straightforward solution here. So we propose to think about form and interactivity concurrently. So what if we could readily fabricate objects with inborn interaction? So the 2 prior approaches I showed in previous slides focus on enabling functionality after the artifact was created and requires ad hoc instrumentations. So our idea is to leverage what computation can offer. So we can concurrently design the form and the interactivity by using optimization, simulation, and advanced algorithms together. So our approach can directly embed electronics into the given network geometry. So here's what I mean. If we all have X-ray vision, you would see black serpentine patterns routed throughout the links. Then these serpentine trace patterns are computationally generated and printed with conductive filaments. So essentially, we are making them act as registers. Now we can support capacitive sensing with a minimum of single wire. So as a result, these networks act as touch sensors, and we can use these touch sensor to develop some interactive visualization with other desktop applications and so on. So here we implemented a computational design pipeline, and with this pipeline, a network dataset can be automatically converted to a 3D object that directly embeds the conductive traces I showed earlier. We can have a fully functional object that is ready to go as soon as it is done printing. So in fact, all user need to do is upload the network dataset and wire it to a microcontroller. And all the low-level engineering is automated. So now I will be discussing the technical steps on how we achieve these sensing networks, which should achieve these 3 sub-goals. So one is how to identify touch nodes, and how to lay out 3D networks, and how to generate files required for publication. So first sub-goal of identifying touch nodes can be achieved through optimization of the resistance embedded in each link. So a conductive trace that is more densely packed will have more electric resistance. And then this will also make a capacitor take more time to get charged when we touch node. So this time delay is known as RC delay. And then to uniquely identify each node, we can uniquely vary in the length of each conductive trace to obtain unique RC delay values. Here's an example of varying RC delay in practice. We obtain unique RC delay values for each node if we apply our optimization. So, and here's an example graph that visualizes these different RC delay values. Here, X represents time and Y-axis represents RC delay values. So each color represents a different nodes. So you can see distinct signal for each attached node. So we need to vary the length of conductive traces within the network, but this requires two considerations. One is which link should have conductive traces, and another one is their resistance value. So to solve this optimization, to solve this kind of challenges, we convert a given network dataset to an electrical circuit. So in our implementation, we employ a path finding algorithm such as depth first search to find the optimal path that connects all nodes with the fewest number of branches. And after the optimal path has been determined, we use a circuit simulator to figure out what the optical resistance should be to ensure unique RC values. I will not talk detail, but with circuit simulators, we designed a gradient-based optimization to find the optimal resistance to clearly recognize the different touch points. Here, the optimization goal is to maximize the minimum difference among the time delays when touching different nodes to ensure time difference for all touch points. Then once we have computed the optimization values, we can generate the conductive traces such that their geometry matches their aimed resistance value. Then now I will move on to the second sub-goal, layout optimization. We consider both functionality and aesthetics here. So as a functionality, first of all, we must avoid intersect links with resistors to avoid messing up those, the electrical circuit functionality. And then also, as we focus on physical networks, there can be a positional concern as well. Therefore, aesthetics, this is optional, but we can avoid intersections of all links and also make link lengths as uniform as possible. And as you can see here, satisfying these all constraints, objectivity is not that easy. So we utilize neural networks to conveniently find solutions. And then as a final goal, we need to generate fabrication files that satisfy all optimized outcomes. So for this sub-goal, we utilize PyVista 3D visualization Python library to generate the fabrication information we want to use for 3D printing. And then these files are used to prepare for 3D printing. And this is CAD files look like in a 3D printing software called PluSlicer. After 3D printing, the last step is just to connect this printed one to microcontroller. And then, but at this point, you may be wondering why not simply use AR or VR headset to achieve similar goals. So first, this sensing network can be interactive interface for various environments, including AR, VR. Here, in a video, the one user interacts with sensing network, and then another individual wearing the AR glasses and watch her interactions in real time. So I want to say that rather than pitting the two technologies against each other, I see how physical interfaces can rather complement existing AR/VR devices. For example, there are non-psychophysical benefits of haptics as opposed to solely relying on mid-air gestures. So research highlights how haptics can provide better performance for analytical tasks, information recall enhancement, and even reducing the cognitive load. And then now we implemented sensing networks. But obviously, networks are just one form of data representations. So as a second work, we want to support other forms of representations like these objects. But networks are very powerful representations, and we realize that any free-form objects can be modeled as a network. So taking this insight, we extend the previous computation pipeline to support a wider range of geometry. So this extended pipeline enables users to define where the touch point should be by selecting on different areas of surface. And then after defining touch point in the 3D model, we apply the similar principles of generating conductive traces that will be routed throughout the model. Then here is what we were able to achieve through this extension. We can now support a variety of geometry from the simple geometry like boxes and spheres, also like more complex shapes like a Hilbert curve. And you can see printed examples here and sensing examples as well. Okay. Now I'd like to summarize this part of my talk. Through the use of 3D printing and computational techniques, we introduced a novel fabrication pipeline that considers form and interactivity concurrently. By using this pipeline, we design interactive physical networks and other shapes. But now we are working on supporting more touch points, applying to this idea to analyze high-dimensional data, such as showing dimensional reduction results, and evaluating with users more comprehensively. And finally, I'd like to summarize today's talk. First, I share the DREP's research visions and two 3D data representations. One is planetarium scale 3D visualization and interactive data physicalization. And with these new forms of data representations, we can start expanding our capacities for communicating and engaging with complex data. And lastly, I'd like to thank all my collaborators and sponsors of my work. And thank you for listening to my talk, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Fujiwara. Yeah, we take several minutes for Q&A. Yeah, I see the several questions, and I will pick some. Yeah, the first one I think it's about interactive 3D printed data physicalization, and
Yes.
he's trying to ask him, is there any other application fields except education? So can you talk
Okay,
about more
sure.
about it?
So
Yeah.
one example is like, of course, education, but as you can see, the using 3D represents sometimes more interactive, more like intuitive interactive device. So for example, one example we are considering right now is when you are sitting down the planetarium, controlling planetarium like environment that's not easy because 3D space. But if we have, for example, sphere like some interface, we can start to manage the planetarium visualization much easier. We expect like that. So that is one example. For example, we can start to utilize as a interaction device. The another one is, because still the scale is very limited, 20 nodes, but you can imagine once we can start to support 1,000 nodes, somewhat the ultimate case, but 1,000 nodes, 10,000 nodes, then basically physicalization start to act like data visualization basically. So we can start to analyze large scale data as well. But that one, we need still lot of works to achieve that situation.
Okay. Okay. Another question is, how do you justify the new 3D data representation method is better? It's better than the traditional ones. So
Yeah, so I think,
yeah.
yeah, so like actually, as I mentioned, actually, that is still ongoing work. We need to do more. But, like, of course, one example, the user study, we still didn't do it, by the way. So, for example, we can start to do user study, basically compare, ask users to perform a simple task, for example, finding paths from this network, point A, node A to node C, and then see the, accuracy, how fast they can solve, and then what was their preference, which interaction method is better, and so on. Yeah, and then also we can do more, the qualitative analysis as well. Yeah, just looking at the results, and then we can start to see patterns only in 3D space, for example. Yeah, that is my answer.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is about cosmic view of life on Earth, and he's asking is in large-scale visualization projects, so how to strike a balance between the scientific accuracy and the visual presentation?
Yeah, so that is actually a good point. So as you can see, even in this like a project, we had such discussion. Originally we applied normal dimensional reduction methods and also existing spherical multi-dimensional scaling. And then how can I say, numerically, probably applying just existing spherical MDS is probably more precise. But we eventually decided to more, declutter the points because of we want to show like more points clearly. Otherwise, for example, as you can see here, those bad pictures are cluttered in one specific areas. So I mean, then like how we decide this level, like how much we want to precise, how much we want to, I can say more focus on presentation. There's no very clear answer, really clear answer. So basically, in this project, we discuss with those bioinformatics scientists whether this much of decluttering is acceptable or not. So yeah, really depends on the situation. We just need to communicate with like those users or presenters what they want to convey.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, it's almost 8:30. Yeah, I think we have to stop the Q&A here. And thank you very much, Dr. Fujiwara, for
Thank you very
sharing
much.
your insightful work and for us today. Yeah, I think that's the end of our 34th Asia Graphics webinar. Yeah, and I would like to seriously thank both of our speakers today and for the sharing their very excellent talks. Yeah, and of course, thank you all to our online participations for joining us. Yeah, I think a recording will be available later on the YouTube or Bilibili. Yeah, and also please stay tuned for our next webinar. It's coming up in December. All right. Thank you all again and have a great day or evening, whatever you are. Okay. Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye.